super duper surprised, and I think that's what we're getting at with our predictions here. So spawning in the top left-hand side, looking for a big upset, it is Max Angel Astrea for Alpha X.
All right, then. Already starting stuff off weird. In the bottom right, looking a bit more normal, he is Ting's Neeb.
Gotta give huge props to Alpha X as well, showing really strong to this tournament with a lot of players actually advancing. So thanks to them for their support of the scene and everything that they're doing for the game, as well as Ting, who have been with Neeb for quite a while now.
Oh yeah, like 5-ish years, and maybe more like 4, but still, and also sponsoring a bunch of tournaments. Like, got some really passionate people in our community, which we're very thankful for. So Astrea starts things off a bit differently. We've talked a little bit about PvP and the new shield battery. We even had Drogo on for an interview where he kind of mentioned that it's pretty powerful. Astrea actually going to be looking to utilize it to go for a 1 gateway expand.
How do you like this? What do you think about this?
Honestly, I like the attempt. I gotta figure that he has a plan specifically for Death Aura as well. What that plan is, I'm not sure. In the past, we've seen some 1 gateway expands that were almost like traps, you know, like they were on a high ground in the natural. What? Did you say really?
With a robo, you mean?
With a robo? Yeah, right? Like, isn't that how they follow up? But yeah, like, and then it would be this really like mighty struggle on the natural. And, you know, eventually the 1 gateway expand player would actually win. But it was a lot because they knew the other guy was going to try and enforce the issue, be like, you can't get away with that, I'm going to kill you. Which, funnily enough, sometimes when you see this like really early, which Neeb is not seeing until now, you can even just be like, oh, okay, that's how we're going to play, and like just be just be cool, just be normal, also go for your own Nexus. But it's such a late scout that everything has to change now. Neeb canceling his 1-base Stargate, chronoing his Warp Gates, I guess going to try to provide aggression, and yes, placing a proxy pylon down. Oh, he wants to punish this, and Astrea should be anticipating Neeb's desire to punish it.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with this proxy pylon. And yeah, Jess, you could just look at it and be like, I guess just give it away. But then you have to have fallen behind, right? Because you made an extra gateway for no reason. So I think if you can't punish it, then it should be what becomes the norm. And we'll see if Neeb has something to say about that, or if this is the way that we're starting to go, especially with the battery overcharge that you were mentioning.
Well, this is not a very good start. I'm not sure what Astrea's plan was to deal with the depth, other than hope that they didn't do a depth. Like, hope they open up the Stalker Sentry, Stalker.
Yeah, I feel like this could have been avoided by just walling off the main a little bit better. I mean, this is doing a lot of damage already. 5 workers, 6.
It's also delaying the robo production. He only just gets to it since the probes weren't mining efficiently. This is a pretty bad start for Astrea. Because he has a natural Nexus, he still has more to give away before he really has to tap out. But even workers, that's okay. What's not okay is that Neeb has a proxy gateway on the way and is warping in a bunch of stalkers. And Astrea, okay, he actually is placing another shield battery. That's good. Because he actually doesn't really know what's happening. Now he gets a better idea as the stalkers come up on the high ground.
Yeah, there's already an Immortal out. Astrea has the resources to at least start making some sentries. Those could be really helpful in defense as well. And they are not too expensive. I'm actually a little bit surprised that he hasn't worked in any yet. There they are.
Pretty darn useful, and still leaves enough gas to get a 3rd Immortal after the second one pops out. Another shield battery.
Was that me?
Overcharge.
Did I lag?
I don't know.
I spiked really hard.
Okay, well, you're good. It didn't show in the game. Target firing the Immortal. Where's the overcharge? There's the overcharge. Is it going to be enough? The Stalkers all trying to target. Oh my god.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about, Jess. These things look pretty good for Neeb, right? This is the kind of thing where the meta could be starting to shift. We see meta shifts all the time. This is where you bring this up. And honestly, I am the worst Protoss in the world probably, but I always try to do something different. And this was my go-to in PvP, was gateway into Robo, into Immortal. But I haven't played PvP since the battery overcharge. And this is the kind of thing that I died to. And I mean, Astrea, he really showed that you can hold with it.
Yeah, like I was really worried, not because he lost the probes, but because it felt like it was already pushing him off his build. You know, his Immortal being a little bit later, was that going to impact it? Apparently not. Apparently just in a good old-fashioned overcharge. I mean, obviously Neeb regrets target firing the Immortal by the end of that fight, which is why he taps out. Probably should have tried target firing the actual overcharge shield battery, but this is also reminding me that this is apparently now a possibility. I'm expecting faster probe scouts and a little bit more of an adjustment to a non-standard PvP, which that matchup's never been standard anyways.
Yeah, on the side of Astrea, I would like to see that tested again, because I mean, things did not go well for him. And I feel like he can adapt and he can improve and he can expect the adepts and have a wall off ready to be finished on the high ground, take less damage and do something similar. So now that he's shown Neeb a little bit that he can stop it, and I completely agree with you, Neeb could have definitely focus fired the shield battery overcharging. Though, was the second shield battery already completed? I'm not even
was.
Sure. Yeah, so that might have helped a little bit, but it's still the most important thing to focus fire because it's outputting the most healing. So anyhow, in the bottom left-hand side, it is Astrea.
In the top right, as the blue Protoss, he is Neeb. You had such like an evil villain laugh.
It was like the longest outro. I was like, okay, is this gonna stop soon? I'm feeling uncomfortable with how evil that is.
That was fun. So Astrea is not gonna play the same. He is gonna go for the regular high ground wall off. Neeb can't just immediately assume everything's going to be shield battery immortal on the natural. He still has to worry about a regular PvP, which means he has to worry about a lot. I mean, I feel like Astrea has already taken a little bit of like a mental edge.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't mind the double gateway on a map like this. This is the type of map where Neeb could really easily cross the map and punish his opponent. It looks like he might be looking for proxies or a proxy of his own. There are so many options here in PvP. It's really exciting to watch.
We're watching an unfolding meta. It is exciting. Astrea, oh, I love it. I love his game plan here. He's going to go for what is extreme greed, usually in PvP, to the most offensive thing you can do besides offensive GG, which is going to be, I assume, a proxy robo in one of the more typical locations on Everdream. But funnily enough, it's kind of fallen off in the last month. So Neeb might not actually be scouting for it.
Is that as a result of the overcharge, do you think?
The proxy robo? I think so, yeah. I mean, this is like literally what the overcharge was made to deal with, was to say, stop proxying your robos. But you still have to actually get a shield battery. You still have to have it in a good location. You still have to have it next to a nexus. So you can't just put it on the natural and say, be done with it. Like, this is too good, man. If Neeb falls to this, I'd be so worried for his ability to come back. And this is actually so nice too for Astrea. He sees that it's a one-base Stargate. Good scouting.
All right. So if you're Astrea, I imagine you want to have those stalkers left back at home, or how do you mount an attack against a Stargate eventually?
Yeah, so the Stargate can actually be a very powerful response to the proxy robo. I just think that it's nice that Astrea actually gets to know what he's up against.
Fair.
When usually you're blocked out of it. But Neeb actually prefers the Stargate against a proxy robo above anyone else that I feel like I've seen. He actually does get into Void Rays, and then you get the chance to prismatically align on any Protoss unit. It does a lot of damage, but especially the Warp Prism, which is usually a critical component to this actually working. It seems like Neeb has, funnily enough, like a good idea, but I think last game with him going for a one-base Stargate too, this is actually mostly coincidence. Well, now he's going to see it was a proxy robo.
Yeah, so he's definitely going to see that. There is Observer first for Astrea, so not really an Immortal or anything like that. And perhaps knowing that the Stargate is the answer, is he even looking to use this robo at all?
That's a good question. I think he figured the Stargate was going to be too strong against him. So to just not do it at all is like, it's that weird thing that can happen kind of only in PvP, right? Like, you obviously can't lose your robo, but it's not going to die soon.
Yeah, so he's going to make an Immortal from it, but it's the least of his priorities. And Neeb actually making all those shield batteries, I feel like he's reacting to something that's not happening at this point.
You're right about that. Now he sees that it's a Nexus. I'm surprised he's letting the second shield battery finish. I guess some people would just go, I mean, 400 minerals is a lot to commit, but I wouldn't be surprised if occasionally they still have a Warp Prism and an Immortal and still kind of do an attack. But Yeah, Neeb is just stuck on one base where Astrea is happily moving on to 2. I actually would have expected Astrea to also... Well, no, actually, never mind. He's observer sees the next.
It's difficult. Are you think? Do you think he should defend this?
I'm not sure. I was actually thinking about a Twilight Council just because he saw the Phoenix, but then I was like, I can't really afford that plus everything else. Not yet, anyways. And it's actually not Phoenix, anyways, which is something that Astrea can see because he has a very nice observer in the natural. He's gonna defend.
I love that he's moving out on the map because, you know, to be honest, I look at the armies and it's like, okay, Astrea can definitely defend it, but Astrea, I'm not so sure should be as ready to go and defend it because it's so scary to move out on the map, right? Like instead of just sitting back when you know you have the economic lead, but he will defend it and repower that row. I love it.
This is such a funny game, man. Like this is so PvP. So Astrea is technically down in workers, but Neeb is not quite producing double workers. Okay, he's just going to start. Astrea has this nice army supply lead, though. And with repowering the Robo, he also has a pylon again, as well as the ability to make a War Prism. So he is going to attack. Neeb saw this, figured it out, canceled his Nexus. No time to build shield batteries down there. So is once again holing up in the main base. But he has a Robotics Bay. So he's going to build a Disruptor and try and bust out of here. And we'll see if that's effective. Astrea is trying to actually scout probably exactly for that.
He'll see it. This looks good for Max, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like he has control. But I'm not. How, Jess? It's like he's just outsmarting Neeb at this point.
I'm honestly like, this is where Roddy has to come in. He's like, off the desk scroll back to the caster roll. But it just like how you would predict how PvPs would go, I think it's difficult for anyone. It's difficult for the casters, difficult for the players, more difficult for the players. But Astrea has managed to, I guess, look a bit better into the future and figure out how things are going, and is coming out on top. So Neeb unfortunately got the Stargate that is not doing very much, and Astrea is actually responding with his own Stargate. And
Jess, that Roddy is there thinking about unmuting right now. I think can we summon him? Like, is there enough energy to break that wall? I don't know. Seems near impossible, but if anyone would have anything to say about this PvP so far, please materialize.
This is so good. Like, so Astrea goes for Stargate because he sees that it's a Robotics Bay and Phoenix are the correct counter to Disruptor. Neeb we do see a lot of like, first of all, we see Colossus fairly frequently in Everdream, which is kind of interesting. And then we do see it often enough against like one base contains because they can break force fields, obviously. But past that point and past it appearing on Everdream ever so often, I'm really not sure about Colossus as a choice. I still think that's kind of being refigured out. Colossus used to be a big deal in PvP, but basically not in Legacy of the Void. So this is something that Astrea might also want to make sure that he scouts, that it is Colossus and not Disruptors. And then, Astrea, does he just push? Because there's not a lot of units when you go for Colossus? Or do you continue to live in Phoenix? Well, why not do both? You can afford both.
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult question too. I feel like Neeb, while he took his base much later, I feel like Astrea could have basically made more workers than he did. Maybe apply some more chrono boost to those workers while he had that map control, because I don't feel like the difference is as big as you would have thought from how much faster Astrea's natural was.
Yeah, I'm with you there. There was a lot of times I think where where they both had to prioritize, not building probes. It's looking like a very deadly attack, man. Astrea is up in workers anyway, so he can kind of pick and choose if he actually wants to engage. And he's at 12 army supply, which I would actually be pretty good, I think. But the Colossus are still in a natural. They're still in a choke. They're still microable. I think maybe when it's more like you're trying to reach towards a third, that Astrea might pull the trigger. But yeah, this is probably
cool.
a safe
How do you think the Phoenix are there mostly for the Immortal more than they are to answer the Colossus at this point, right? Immortal sentries or the Phoenixes of Neeb himself.
I'm getting confused because they've ultimately ended up with very similar compositions.
Yeah, they both have Phoenixes. I meant for these Phoenixes. Yeah, I think their job is more to pick off the key ground units than to fight the Colossi, right? The Phoenix of Astrea.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely remade because he was worried about Disruptors, but now they can definitely provide a role picking up a War Prism, protecting its own War Prism. And they can, you know, obviously they can attack the Colossus, but this doesn't kill him very fast, or grab sentries. Beautiful move there.
Very, very well done. Those are so important. That's the third sentry he grabs. And as soon as Neeb turns around, he's like the ghost from Mario Bros. You know, as soon as you turn around, it turns around. Yeah, Boo.
That's his name. This Immortal drop is actually kind of risky. He knows Neeb is moving out, so maybe he's going to wait till the last minute to recall, or maybe he doesn't think he has to. Neeb has taken a slight army supply lead, but Astrea has something really big. He's going to have 2 Disruptors, and Neeb has nothing against it. No Blink, no Phoenix. And there's the first
he's
shot.
going to choke. Yeah, it's going to find the Immortal and 3 more units with it. The Phoenix are here just picking up deaths, and that tells you something. Neeb is gonna GG, and Astrea just quite honestly outclassing him in that one game.
I mean, if that's not a game to show how confident and like in command you are, I'm not sure what game is. That was maybe one of the more twisty and turny PvPs you could possibly have. And Astrea looked like he came out on top every time. Was it a total blowout? No, he was never up 15 probes or 40 army supply, but when everything came together, that end fight, it was very convincing for Astrea. I think it's looking good for even a 3-0 man. I'm not sure how Neeb pulls his headspace out of the fog right now.
It's a difficult one, and it once again makes you wonder if the veterans at this point are a little bit underestimating the newcomers, because I don't know. Like, I feel like Neeb gave Astrea some space too, right? Like the first game, I liked it. He was decisive. And it failed, so maybe it's that too. I mean, Astrea has looked good on both fronts, defense and offense.
Yeah, it really has. And I guess it is worth noting that ever since, well, it's kind of funny, right? Because Neeb has always been a player who's like, I'm not very good, stop cheering for me. But he has talked about how PvP is very confusing for him, basically since his Cuspa Cup win, back when it was literally Disruptor versus Disruptor. Ever since then, he said that he doesn't really get PvP. He's literally been on stage publicly before facing another Protoss player, been like, I just don't know. And that might still be the case. And the fact that the meta has changed again just might not be sitting very well with Neeb. I don't know. Did he have any PvPs in his group? I'm going to check this. Yeah, he did. But, I mean, not against players of Astrea's caliber, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't look too good. It didn't look too good at all for Neeb. That was Astrea in control the entire time, and it really, I mean, as from my perspective as a non-PvP player, it was weird. Like, yeah, Neeb looked confused, right? Those batteries in the main, they didn't accomplish anything. I mean, he had more information than Astrea, but it looks like Astrea used that better, right? He said, you know this, I'm gonna use that, and Neeb kept kind of falling for it.
Yeah, it did kind of start with that second shield battery not being canceled, right? It just seems like Neeb has already set off a little bit despite getting some good scouting, which again just doesn't look very good for him as far as this game number 3. It's going to be an Eternal Empire in the bottom left. So far, looking very good for the upset. He is the red Protoss, Astrea.
And in the top right-hand side, it is Neeb.
It's a good day, cats. You know, we get amazing TVZ, and then into what I think, even if it's a 3-0, is still an amazing story, an amazingly fun games. We see the PvP meta change up a little bit. We see the complexity that is a quote-unquote normal PvP. It's fantastic.
It's amazing. I am having a blast this entire day. It's been a rather has it been a long day? I'm not even sure, but we've had very close series through and through, and very exciting, and some long games for sure. So yeah, I'm having a blast.
I'm hoping Eternal Empire lives up to the hype as to PvP as much as it does in TVP or TVZ. Neeb, maybe this time around is going to get, oh no, it's not even going to be a normal game. Quick check on Astraea's base. I noticed no 2 gateways walling off, no wall off whatsoever. And Neeb is, oh man, Neeb's not going for a very quick scout at all. He's once again hiding his probe for a sneaky pylon.
But
That's just a sneaky pylon.
Yeah, but that's not, look, even, it's not even sneaky at all because Astrea is one step ahead once again. He was checking the watchtower, sees the direction of the probe of Neeb, so he knows there's a probe out there and he knows where to check now for the first pylon. And I imagine he'll look for the next, if there is one.
It would be pretty cool of Neeb to just like double hide pylons. Not too usual, but this is just once again Astrea getting the lead. So, all right, the Adepts in the first game, because we're going back to the first game right now with Astrea's build. The Adepts in the first game, well, they did get evening amounts of workers killed, and that's nice. Like, they were also 2 army units that didn't really end up helping the actual army fight. So I said, like, hey, maybe this isn't what you want to be up against. I mean, maybe it was. Astrea seems very willing to let Adepts in his base by not walling off, because you could still wall off with the Gateway 7 export. If you really
I really hope we get an interview and we talk to him about it, because sometimes he will just not have, played enough games. He's the type of player that is actively trying things out, and you have to imagine with the recent changes, he hasn't gotten that much time to perfect the strategy. So it really, I would love to ask him what's going on there. I can't imagine losing six probes is a good thing.
I think it's still not it's not desirable, but I guess much more importantly is that their attack is just a little bit later, which it was in that first game. For this game, it's going to be very different. Neeb scouted the Nexus, though not as fast as maybe you would ideally want, but fast enough that he can just go for 2 units and then a Nexus, as opposed to commit to 4 or 6 or, a depth that won't help enough. So this is going to be that game that I was kind of describing. This is funny, which is that the person scouts and goes, oh, I guess I really shouldn't even try to do something about it. Let me just try and maybe get a couple more chronos than you, cut a few more corners later on in the game, and see if that works. And, this is probably much more important. Resonating Glaives versus Blink.
All right. How do you feel about this matchup? I really don't see it take place.
Yeah, neither do I, honestly. Like, we've been seeing a lot of Blink in the non-Korean scene after the Koreans kind of almost felt like they popularized it, and I guess it's been shifting back and forth. But regardless, a lot of Blink. So for Astrea to go for Blink, okay, thumbs up. That sounds right to me. For it to be up against Resonating Glaives, though, that's where I'm like, well, what actually defeats it? Usually we talk about defeating Resonating Glaives, which usually turns into a 2-base all-in more than Blink ever does. You usually talk about like Archons, shield batteries, force fields, but not really Blink stalkers. So I wonder how much of this is going to be really more about Astrea scouting and figuring out that it's a depth, because right now it might just look like Blink to him, and taking control of the engagements, which, okay, Neeb's actually going for a Forge, so this is going to be just like kind of harassment at depths.
Yeah, and against just harassment adepts, I mean, I have to imagine the mobility of Blink Stalkers is going to be pretty good to chase those shades around. I don't know if there are shield batteries situated for Astrea in the main and natural. Now another one is getting added a little bit closer to the mineral line. I wonder if he would place them even closer if he knew it was this adept poke first, but is it even coming?
That's what I'm wondering, man. Like,
what?
I don't think Neeb has been... I don't know, man. Like, Neeb's pylon was a good signifier that it could be aggressive. So for Neeb to be like, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore, like, makes sense. But he was already moving away from a potential 2-base attack even before that pylon was scouted. So either he thought he was too well scouted, maybe the lack of gases in the natural is a bit of a tell, or he just really figured it wouldn't work out. Either way, we're moving on into more of a macro game where the Adepts still have Resonating Glaives, but they're not doing anything.
Yeah, and in fact, there are no Adepts, so no one has Resonating Glaives, technically.
That's a good point. Oh, jeez.
I mean, it almost looks like last game, Astrea did something similar. Neeb scouted him, he kind of dropped the tech. This time, Astrea kind of scouts Neeb, and I can see, okay, like maybe mind games, but at what point do you mind game yourself? I mean, you just made a complete upgrade that you're not using, and those adepts just kind of walked into Astrea's armies. Neeb maybe just not feeling like himself today, or at least for this game.
I can't possibly imagine how you would, man. I feel like PvP right now is just about who has the most like stupid types of confidence. You know what I mean? Like you are just so confident that if the other person was equally as confident, it'd be like this weirdest PvP, but because it feels like Astrea is by far more confident, he looks so much better. Or Neeb is like, I'm just trying to follow you, man. Like, I don't know what's happening. That's he still has a chance.
Definitely. He's situated his third fairly fast. Good force fields on the side of Astrea. But yeah, it seems like Astrea is much more willing to take control and command of the game, and Neeb is playing a little bit scared here and there is what it feels like. And I mean, I wouldn't mind this if his opponent was much worse, right? Like if he was playing like against an opponent like myself, or maybe even like 1,000 better MMR than me, right? Like someone that's just not quite on his level. I don't mind him if you're gonna be defensive, but Astrea has shown that he is very much on his level now. So at some point, you gotta take some risks of your own and whatnot.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was like looking up, you know, like you're absolutely right. Creature and Disc were, I think, both 2-0'd by Neeb, who might have been playing a similar fashion, but it just worked out because, yeah, just overall, Neeb's the better player. He finally gets something done with his Adept. 5 probes go down, but that's, I want to say it's small, but despite all the twists and turns, once again, this PvP is interesting. We've kind of come down to a more even spot that certainly Disruptors could change any benefit that Astrea might have, and that's what we might be seeing from this Robotics Bay. Neeb accidentally made a second one. That doesn't bode so well.
Definitely. And you know what, Jess? If we see a couple more of those Adept attacks, then I won't have minded the Resonating Glyphs at all, because yeah, if they're gonna pay for themselves over the curse of the game, maybe not so bad. So I'd like to see that. Nice blink from Neeb. This is the confidence that maybe he was lacking, taking an engagement and taking it to Astrea, even killing the Observer. Nice move.
I feel like this is finally a PvP that Neeb can recognize, even though it still got here in a very weird fashion. I mean, really, I cast like so many PvPs, Cats. Like so many, because that's all what Europe qualifiers are. And none of them have looked like this best of 5. And it's still not really looking like this best of 5, because as soon as it seemed like it was finally getting to at least a point where they were both on similar compositions, you know, Colossus coming out here, then Astrea throws down 2 Stargates. And I'm once again going, okay, show me what you got, Astrea.
Yeah, I mean, and that could be Void Rays or Tempests, or I feel like Roddy would know. Do you know, Jess?
He saw the robotic space, but I got to figure once again, he's preparing to take the Phoenix advantage in case we do see Disruptors.
All right, but he will be spotted by Neeb. So we'll see if Neeb overreacts to this perhaps once again. I'm really curious as to what's going to happen. It will be Phoenix. So so spot on there, Jess. And I got a feeling that would have also been Roddy's guess, but I'm not sure that that's always Roddy's guess. It's just, seeing the Colossus is really what's odd so far. And Neeb actually seeing the Stargates might be like, okay, you think I'm going to Disruptors, but I already wasn't, so I'm just going to continue building Colossus. Because Phoenix, I don't think for the amount of Phoenix you need to build a Colossus reliably, they're worth it. I mean, we certainly didn't see many, Phoenix responses to good old Heart of the Swarm, Colossus versus Colossus, but that was a very different time period. Yeah, I can't imagine that would be the way. I think if you're sniping Colossus, maybe the Tempests. The Void Rays seem like a decent catch-all, but I never see Void Rays really. They're kind of a catch-all, but they don't seem to be good enough to at least be mainstream. And Astrea with the Disruptors himself. So going into the Phoenix Disruptor kind of to account for that composition, maybe it's what he fears the most. I think there is definitely something to be said about just like by going for the Stargate, you are getting a head start on the ability to make Disruptors. Oh, what a convoluted way to put that. But yeah, like because he knows he couldn't be countered strongly anymore. Like if he does see Stargates, he can just start building his own Phoenix. He thinks it's very easy for him to go into Disruptors, which I still think are going to be the better addition. So I'm liking Astrea's composition more. We'll see how it works out. He only has a couple of Disruptors right now, so they might not make or break the fight. I think they'll make a huge difference, especially with armies this large. It's going to be Neeb trying to dislodge and run away from those Disruptor shots. That's going to be opportunities for Astrea to take better engagements. I completely agree with you. I love that the Phoenixes are there, and they're just kind of like saying, okay, go Disruptors, I'll lift them up. And if not, I'll have my Disruptors. I think you put it brilliantly. And here is the recall. So that forcing out of a recall out of Neeb. How important is that to not have the recall on cooldown?
Oh, I'm not sure it's as important as not losing all of your stalkers. He's trying to evacuate, but yeah, I think it'll be okay. Most of these fights are going to be just like one, just literally our big army versus my big army versus your big army. So I'm not too worried about the lack of recall right now. Actually, like it's still an okay move. He's still distracting Neeb, obviously. I still like the Warp Prism, but as far as the actual recall, I don't know about that. Neeb is trying to make sure he doesn't get blindsided by the main engagement, which unfortunately means that these stalkers are actually going to lose the fights, but he's going to be prepared around his 4th base. +3 is almost done for Astrea, and he's got those disruptors, which now Neeb has to deal with defensively, which is very difficult to do. You don't have as much room to try and back away.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. He's pinned back against a wall of his own making, the Zealots. I love how aggressively Astrea is warping on this side. He's not really wishy-washy about it and going half-seas, but just rather all onto the main. The recall not being available is going to play into that because Neeb would have to commit his own entire warpins to deal with it. Oh, this nice blink will snipe a Disruptor, though. And that is, I mean, the class of player that Neeb is, just seizing a very small opportunity.
Jeez, he's doing it again! He's jumping forward on top of the Disruptors and on top of the Colossus. That does put him in range, a lot of the Archons, but so many of them had already died that only one is getting some decent shots. Another Disruptor goes down as Neeb takes control over this fight. I actually can't believe this is what's going on here. He also was dealing major damage with his DTs on the 4th base, and in a flash, Neeb takes a commanding fight and takes a point on the board. It's not going to be a 3-0 as Neeb keeps the hope alive for the old guard. We're going to be going into game number 4 right after this break.
And we are back once again with the underdog leading 2-1 over the super overdog in this situation. It is Astrea up 2-1 against Neeb. It is exciting. The semifinals of the North American section of DreamHack Masters. I'm joined by Zombie Grab. What's up, Jess?
I am watching some amazing StarCraft 2, man. I can't believe the first 2 games. I can't believe that last game. This is not the PvP I've seen 60, 70, 100 times over in the past 2 weeks. This is some special brand of NA magic.
It really is, isn't it? I wonder what it is about NA players. Why they are so willing to be so crazy? Yeah, play-wise, right? There's something in the water. It's Neeb in the bottom left.
Wow. And he's still being weird to the top right. As the red Protoss, he is Astrea. You know, he was known as the weird player for a while, the weird fun player, but not mechanically there. Now he's definitely a different person, but apparently only so different. He is still willing to be the weird guy, the natural pylon. The natural pylon.
Amazing. How do you punish this, Jess?
You know, I feel like it's supposed to be easy because there's a reason people don't do this, but Nexus first. Oh my god.
I like it. You know, in a game like this where Neeb has everything to lose as well, I love that this is the reaction for Astrea because I think it's that much more likely that Neeb goes, I guess I'll just play a Nexus. I don't want to lose if I all in, right? Like when you all in, you feel like a lot of it is out of your control. It's such a difficult decision to make.
I think I agree. I definitely know what you mean. And Neeb also is maybe one of the more macro players that we've ever seen. It's kind of like, well, I haven't been able to bust him. I didn't bust him in the first game, so I don't really try that again. If I can get to that comfortable spot, like in the last game, basically, if I can get there with an army composition that I can pretty much understand, I'll feel better. But ooh, he's still going to go for a potential proxy Stargate here. That probe is not leaving the pylon like it has done in so many of their other games.
This is
what's kind of funny about this, though, and I'm guessing it's a Stargate, but
it's gotta be.
It's gotta be, yeah. I wonder if this is actually going to be as good as it sounds, because one of the things that doesn't punish greed so much is like harassment, right? Like technically, you can only have 6 Marines against someone who's trying to proxy Oracle you while you have 3 CC, and you still have enough Marines to take care of the Oracle, right? So in this case, Neeb can't do anything with the depths. They can't get through the natural. So the Oracle is the only thing that Astrea has to worry about. If he just builds a shield battery, that first Oracle actually wouldn't do any damage either. So that's what I'm watching out for. Or if the Stalkers are just going to the main. Like Astrea doesn't have to scout to pretty much like take care of a lot of different options that Neeb might have to punish him.
That is true. At the same time, Neeb will have an incredibly fast Oracle, and if the Stalkers are in the main, maybe he can go for the natural. But like you were pointing out, there's that shield battery. Where is it?
It's in the main? No, it's in the natural. You're right. But the Stalkers are going to the main because Astrea definitely scouted the Stargate.
Okay, so the probes in the natural can always react and go back to that shield battery for safe passage at least. So with the Stalkers in the main, it's a pretty strong start for Astrea.
Yeah. When it comes to really punishing greed, you really want to have just like a pretty committed attack because it would probably work. You know, if you had a proxy Robo right now, I mean, how in the world is Astrea defending against that? But against the Oracle, just simply 2 Stalkers, injure it severely and defend against it. And then the shield battery protects the natural Neeb. Yes.
All right. Turkey Dano has been ingested by Neeb overnight, it seems.
That's amazing. He's going to Void Ray contain Astrea. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's so NA. I love it. It's so
awesome. He has to do something. You talked about it. I mean, you said it has to be a little bit more committed than that, but now we have a shield battery stalemate. I mean, the Nexus is going to have something to say about the overcharge, so I don't know. I still like Astrea's position quite a bit, and he's going to scout the first Void Ray as well.
This is so silly. Oh, the overcharge is actually going to pop it. Oh, it's so silly. He's going to eventually lose his wall, so he has to be prepared for that, right? Start rebuilding the gateways elsewhere. But he has so many shield batteries. He's making sure to build additional pylons. I guess all he really needs to do is get to additional tech as well, and then he'll feel super confident.
Definitely. He has a probe or a pylon blocking the expansion of Neeb, and he is already 7 workers ahead. So if he can just hold, not lose any workers, he hasn't produced any for a while, he will then stabilize and know that he has a Nexus and know that he can easily take that economic lead. Things are looking great for Astrea, I think.
So bizarre. I'm thinking of like, there was like an Astrea versus Haas game on like Ephemeron or something. This looks kind of similar to that. The Oracle in the main base, I think, was trying to just wear out the shield battery, and it was effective. It's actually getting so many kills.
Oh, really?
Astrea just didn't anticipate it, thinking that I guess it wouldn't have enough energy to do so, but it definitely did.
That is where Neeb's veteran instinct kicks in, and he's like, oh, this guy can actually now kill 11 workers in spite of the shield battery.
Astrea Astrea's down 4 workers, but with 2 Nexus, he could replace that and still be okay. Eventually, we're going to talk about the mined out main bases of both parties as well, which would obviously favor Astrea with his own natural. But we're not quite there yet. Neeb is building up to his 4th Void Ray. More shield batteries coming down, and Astrea might have replaced his gateways. He never got to any additional tech. No blink, no counter stargates, no warp prism to try and go across the map. It is just pure regular soccer.
Yeah, and I love that position up until Neeb actually equalized and now is putting himself ahead in the economy for the first time in the entire game. So I think Astrea needs to remake some probes in order to stick around, because otherwise Neeb is going to start overpowering him now.
This is great. Probes being pulled to help deal with the Adepts as the Stalkers kind of want to move aggressively forward. I think Neeb is recognizing an opportunity for a good force field, so he warps in a sentry to punish that forward movement. This is actually, I cannot believe Neeb is making this work, but he is. The Void Ray is looking so strong, being constantly recharged. The force field I was talking about, but the overcharge of the shield battery, how good is that compared to a regular shield battery? Pretty darn good, apparently.
Much better, it seems. Yeah, it's gonna push the attack back. Only 2 Voiders left after that, and those are easier targets to focus fire. Oh, the Oracle actually floats over the Stalkers. Not a thing you want to do if you're an Oracle.
No, especially it still has the potential to regain energy and then once again try to bust down the shield battery's energy. So, well, it no longer can, and Neeb doesn't really want to waste gas or production time on anything but Void Rays, which is that's a sentence. And I don't know. Astrea still he's still struggling here, man. Like, he's down in army supply. Really, all he has is the shield batteries and the hope that Neeb will eventually tire out, because Neeb should be mining out of minerals very soon.
That's the thing, is whenever Neeb clears that pylon and takes his own Nexus, that's a breather for Astrea, because it's the extra 400 resources that he's finally not warping in to be aggressive with. And in the meanwhile, Astrea has been stabilizing his economy. He is now 5 workers ahead of Neeb once again. So yeah, I think if Neeb lets down his guard, and he has to as the main starts mining out, like you accurately pointed out, then I think Astrea will get more breathing room.
There's a couple of force fields, taking a couple of Stalkers. I do wonder if Neeb's final game plan is to basically force an overcharge, the shield battery, and then let it run out, right? And then just basically all in. Just say, like, I can only do this for so long. The other alternative might be to try and go for a hidden Nexus, but as I bring it up, there's the Void Rays moving into the Stalkers. The shield batteries are supercharged, but many of the Stalkers are in the main base. Here they come now to help out, target firing down the Void Rays. Not quite working out thanks to Neeb's own shield batteries.
Yeah, and to what you were saying, yeah, the battery overcharge has been pretty good. So maybe Neeb should be more willing to disengage there, though that didn't seem to go poorly for him at all. Now Astrea finally with some tech of his own in that Templar, in that Twilight Council. Did he blink? It's being chrono boosted, but it's not researching anything, right?
Yeah, I guess he thought he was going to start blink, and then maybe he had to make a last second decision. I'm not sure.
Or he thinks he clicked on blink and he didn't. That could be painful.
Yeah, he might have also tried chronoing the Nexus. I don't know. It's not the time to make probes. That 7-worker lead about to be even greater just because of the lack of mining. I don't think he needs more probes. He needs more army. The Adepts are not going to go into the main base. A couple of force fields are slapped down. I don't know if they're too helpful. Maybe not as helpful as this overcharged battery, but the Stalker count just looks way too low for Astrea. He's going to have to pull the probes, desperately hold, but the Void Rays are looking way too good. And I cannot believe it. Neeb is going to take game number 4 and give us game 5, just like we wanted. Praise Neeb.
Praise Neeb. What an amazing game. I mean, Neeb found one opening, Jess, but he knew about it. And I mean, I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't thinking on the back of my mind, hey, wait until that Oracle has enough energy to kill 11 probes in spite of the shield battery, right? Who thinks about that? Neeb.
Apparently Neeb does. He knew that would eventually come back to help, and it really did. Like, if there were 11 probes from that point, that entire game, it is so different. Like, he has enough to invest into either more gateways or faster blink, which would have helped out, either one being a very good option. And then eventually busts, down the ramp or circumvents the army somehow. But no, he lost 11 probes at a pretty crucial moment. Never was truly mining that much more. And at one point, Neeb was actually the one who was better mining. Oh, and now for game 5, we get to go to Submarine. I don't even know, this looks like a PvP, man.
I'm like nervous. Like, I can't imagine what must be going through these players' heads right now. It's nerve-wracking to play a PvP like this. Both players are showing that they are willing to do anything. And I mean anything. It is quite insane.
I feel like, you know, PvP was already a matchup where if the players after the game went, ha, you know, and then just like move on to the next game, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. PvP is kind of weird. But especially for these games, how does any one of these players after any one of these games not just go, ha, okay, next game? Like, is it really going to require a lot of like mental work there? I don't know.
Yeah, it's very difficult to try and consider games that are that crazy for too long. It's like you will notice a couple of things that you might have been able to do better or worse, but really investing too much time into breaking it down, it's kind of useless because when are you going to play another game like that?
Oh, probably. I wouldn't say not ever, but hey, maybe Astrea is actually showing us the way, and you know, these Nexus firsts and Nexus after gateways are going to become more and more common. He is certainly, you know, making a case for the overcharged shield battery. Just that last game was a little too far gone. As I said, now we head into Submarine for Game 5. I know what this looks like in TVT, and it ain't pretty. It is not comfortable. What is it for PvP? An already wacky, weird PvP. I don't know, man. I just don't know. I do know who this player is, though. In the top left for Ting, he is Neeb.
And on the bottom right-hand side, he is in Alpha X. It's a red Protoss player, Astrea. Nice. I liked his position last game, Jess.
Yeah, you did? Yep, me too. Me too. Thought there's no way a Stargate's going to do enough damage. Who's going to build Voideries against this? They're too expensive. Neeb does.
Neeb did wonderfully there. Really, really pulling it back. And that's the kind of win that, I mean, if he was feeling shaky before and he was feeling like he wasn't in control, that kind of game has to give you a lot of confidence, right? Like be like, yeah, actually, you know what? I'm one of the GOATs.
I mean, he is. He'll probably never admit it.
Nah, that's only internally do those dialogues happen, I think, for me.
Yeah. He has been getting a little bit cheekier in interviews, though, hasn't he? You know, like a little bit.
Yeah, all of them, really. Cyril and Neeb. I mean, yeah, they've all been getting a little bit cheekier. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. All right, a more normal-looking PvP. Astrea slaps down a pylon that is not actually going to be used for anything. As his probe just pulls back.
So what is it about that pylon, Jess?
What do you mean, like in general?
It's just no. The pylon out there, it's just so that Neeb doesn't see a pylon inside, right?
Oh, absolutely. You place it in the most random location possible so they never get confirmation that it's actually not being used.
Cool, and then they'll waste their time worrying and looking for a proxy that they may not be able to find. So it is just about the most proxy random location. It is pretty close to Astrea. It's not somewhere where you would want to proxy anything. And look at that. It sends Neeb for a loop. There's 2 probes out there looking for it.
Absolutely. Neeb, I feel like he's always one of the Protoss players who takes this seriously. On top of that, most Protoss players want to take this seriously. On top of that, the Specified's already been so weird. Of course, Astrea could go for a 1-base proxy. Like, of course.
Yeah. Definitely not out of the question. Now Neeb finally scouting with his 2 probes towards the side of the map of Astrea, but I don't think you'll ever find this pylon. So good job by Max Angel randomizing the most perfect proxy location to the point where it can't be random no more. It's more like, yeah, really well thought out, I guess, of the last thing that your opponent would think of.
He really, he's finally going to see it, but at a point where he's already figured it out because he's held the Nexus too. Now, this Nexus was a little bit later. Good recall there by Astrea. So Neeb, he saw the, I don't think he's able to tell based off, you know, the Nexus being down. He didn't see it put down, that it was a robo first. Maybe by the time it finishes, he'll be able to confirm.
Just, well, you know what's really funny? If you look at Astrea's vision and then Neeb's vision and compare their minimaps, like Neeb actually looked at the entire minimap already. Like he has actually scouted the entire map.
He really did. This is a little awkward without the warp gates. Oh, without the immortal, I should say. All right, so that immortal, I mean, absolutely confirmed that it was a robo first. I think the Nexus timing also had him suspicious of the additional building in the main. Hallucinated Scout from Astrea is going to be able to see the Oracle. Perfect timing. He's going to warp in some Stalkers in the main base, and then maybe afterwards a shield battery.
All right, it looks like a good defense for Astrea. It looks like Neeb is not going to pile on to the aggression. He's going to take a Nexus himself. I like the pylon as well in the back of that Nexus reactively from Astrea on the back of his natural Nexus, because if Neeb committed to an attack, he wouldn't have had maybe the presence to drop another pylon in the front. So Astrea is really looking out for every possibility himself.
Fancy.
Nice. Fancy.
Oh, it's still 3 sentries, though. That died to that Oracle, apparently. Oops. That's, I mean, it made up for a little bit, but, ooh, 3 sentries lost. That is, you're not going to replace 3 sentries. You replace 1 or 2, but that's just a straight up loss.
A lot of his scouting, so instead he's going to push out and kind of take a little bit of a potential gamble. I mean, it's 3 sentries, like you mentioned. Those sentries would make such a huge difference with the... Oh, no! This is so bad!
He got 1 Oracle,
he loses the Oracle and then brings in his twin brother for revenge.
Oh, Astrea, he's really dedicating here. This time the shield battery will be enough, I believe. But there's the force field to replace 2 sentries and blocks out Neeb from his own main, but the recall is good. He depowers 2 gateways.
Yeah, Astrea looks like he was considering moving down to the natural and doing the same thing. He will, and there's no recall available this time around. Neeb is not paying attention. Astrea, wow! There's the sentry, and now the natural is Astrea. He's gonna have to continue to work in sentries, but there's no recall.
Oh, he shield overcharges to help the probes and the warped in at depth, but that is targeted down. The second shield battery is targeted down. Neeb still has more workers, believe it or not, up until that exact sentence. All right, never mind. But he's gonna lose the rest. He can't save him.
Yeah, I'm surprised that there wasn't another sentry warped in, that the Nexus wasn't taken down by Astrea. I mean, this is something of an advantage to take, but I feel like he could have capitalized on those force fields a little bit harder. Maybe not, though. There's the warp prism now available for Neeb, so maybe he saw that coming. Maybe that's the more sensible choice. I'm not sure.
I think that might be the case. And he did save those probes. The warp prism came in for the save, so it's actually back in Neeb's favor as he kills 5 probes with Astrea. Still no shield battery in that natural. Not something that Astrea really wants to dedicate to, even though it cost him more in probe minerals anyways.
Yeah, when all is said and done, both players with the exact same supply. So yeah, I don't know what we're watching. It's crazy. It is worthy of a final game. Here, Astrea doing everything that he can to force Neeb back.
Oh, maybe thought that was real for a second. Or maybe just looking to bring back the warp prism to help out against this warp prism. Neeb correctly microing. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez.
All right. Finally finds the angle to pick up the immortal. So well done by Neeb.
Has Neeb gotten any indication that this adept attack is on the way? Let's check his vision. He's seen a Twilight Council researching something. He's seen maybe a decent number of adepts, but hard to tell if that's really like, just because the game has been the way it has. I'm not sure those stalkers were on purpose, but if they were, 10 out of 10 cool points. Because if he's trying to convince them that was Blink researching, that is just like... That'd be sick.
Yeah. And that is the kind of thing that Astrea will think about. He is a very tricky, very intelligent player, so I love that move. I think it is, yeah, look at it, right? It's working. The warp prism will not go on 3 stalkers. He thinks, okay, you're leaving 3 stalkers, it's really 1.
This is going to be an interesting hold from Neeb. Now, he knows that something is on the way. He's seen no gases of the natural of Astrea, so I think that was a big tip-off as to something, but as you know, it's exactly Resident Glaives. He may also be slowly figuring that out. He's got shield batteries aplenty forming up here. He's got a single disruptor literally about to pop. Now, those could be hit or miss. Sometimes they do hit the bulk of the adepts, and they do clump up a mighty fine bit. Sometimes the spread is good. Astrea, oh, he's going to cancel. Okay. And run away, run away.
All right, just 2 adepts. The warp prism a little bit late on the save. Astrea with this little bit of a siege will catch 2 immortals, but they will get picked up by Neeb. Almost catching a sentry was Astrea. A very low immortal. I think Astrea has to be a little bit cautious. Maybe pull back, regroup, and see what he can do moving on forth. But we haven't really seen this type of game go in his favor yet.
This is an amazing PvP. I feel like they're both so impressive. Neeb looking for the good hits. Actually gets a pretty good one, takes out the low immortal. I want a best of 69 against these guys, a best of 101. I don't know, but I need it. It's so good, but Astrea is looking like he's not going to be able to cause the upset anymore. The Disruptor was a little too strong. Now having a couple units caught off guard away from the protective Warp Prism. And Immortal looks like it might fall. Oh, good save.
Yeah, look at how daring Neeb is, identifying that it was the glaives researched and not Blink, because otherwise that would be so daring for that Warp Prism, right? If he thought it was Blink still. Wow, yeah. My heart.
I can't believe it.
Tense for Astrea. I would have loved to see him advance, but of course it is Neeb. Neeb! What can you say, then? What an amazing series. How do you do it justice? I mean, no ending is climactic enough. I think this was brilliantly played from both players from start to finish. What a beautiful display of Star